Let's rank all of my 2024 Artist Alley conventions and events. Hi, I'm Tanny, and I run my shop, Monster Kitty Society, where I make spooky cute art for dark souls who love cats. Today I'm going to be ranking the 20 events I did this year from the perspective of someone who drives to their events, pays a helper, my spouse, to sell at each one, and still doing it with a full-time job. So this year, I did 9 anime conventions, 5 horror conventions, 3 Comic-Cons, 2 punk rock flea markets, and a alternative art market. I did these across 7 states, and I originally had 22 events on my schedule, but I had 2 events canceled due to Hurricane Helene and Milton. I will be ranking my conventions as follows. A personal favorite, this is regardless of money earned, it's just immaculate vibes, and I did well. Good vibes means I did well. Is it my personal favorite? No, but I did well and I'm willing to return. Didn't come home broke? Well, I didn't come home broke, but I may do it again if there's a gap in my schedule, and maybe skip next year. Is I'm probably not going to return back at least next year or maybe the foreseeable future because it didn't go as according to plan. And then the bottom is yikes. I have a lot of yikes this year. This year was not the greatest, but you live and learn. Let's start chronologically. So at the top of my year didn't start until February. So in February, I had Comic-Con. Comic-Con is in Birmingham, Alabama. It's always in early February. What I like about it, it's juried. It's a short, easy drive for me. The staff is nice. The vibes are great. And the table's affordable. And there's great communication. The bad is not really a bad. It's more of a nitpick. The tables used to be 8 feet when I first started going to this con. And now, since the con has grown, they've added more tables, so it's now 6 foot. And I really miss the 8-foot tables. It's pretty much what I miss. Comic-Con is a personal favorite and sometimes a highlight of my year. I know Tekko from such a nice high to the start of it to have probably one of the worst shows I did this year. Fanboy, Anime, Toy, and Gaming. It's in Knoxville, Tennessee, so it's local for me, so I don't have any costs. This was a first-year con that took place in early March, and I think for next year it is also in early March. The good. It's local. So I got to sleep in my bed every night, so there's that. The bad is pretty much everything else. It's first come, first serve, so nobody gets filtered. So there's a lot of garbage, not only in the vendor's room, but in the artist alley of people who just want cheaper tables to sell bootlegs. And they didn't really do a great job of advertising it as there was nobody there. And the tables are kind of expensive. This was my second worst show of the entire year. So it's a yikes. Even if I live here. Yeah, you can't make me go back. I don't even know why I keep doing their shows. They all suck. Next, we are doing Southeast Punk Rock Flea Market in Greenville, South Carolina. It was in mid-March this year for me, and it was the same time as the local area's spring break, so I thought it was a good time to go. This one is a little weird. So the Southeast Punk Rock Flea Market, they do several cities, mostly in South Carolina, but some in North Carolina as well. And they repeat cities throughout the year, so it won't be the only time they were going to be in Greenville that year. They were going to be there, I think, 3 or 4 other more times. I've done several of these, but I have found the Greenville one is the only one worth my time, only because the fact that my friend lives there, so I don't have to pay for hotel. They're all right. If you're local, I would 100% recommend doing your local Southeast Punk Rock Flea Market if you're a little more alternative, because they are such a vibe. The playlists were immaculate. They do filter people to go in, so there's not going to be any like MLM scams next to you. So they're all individual artists. The traffic varies from show to show depending on the time of year. So the time of year you pick is also kind of important. So I picked spring break, and it was really busy. But in general, overall, because of Hurricane Helene wiping out I-40 between Knoxville and Tennessee, it's one that I have to wait until I-40 gets repaired, unfortunately. All right. So this is my first double booked weekend event ranking. This was Easter weekend in April, and I had two events. One that I had booked beforehand, and the other one I got in last minute. So I wasn't intending to be double booked. It's a little stressful, but when you happen to get double booked, you just gotta make a decision. And so for this one, I did something called the Gothic Residency of the Arts Dark Market, or GROTA, and then MTAC, which is Middle Tennessee Anime Convention. So GROTA, well, this was my worst event of the year. They have a very pretty aesthetic, which lulled me into a false sense of security, and it is juried, but Lord have mercy, there was nobody there because the sales were abysmal. I think they were trying to compete with like the Oddities and Curiosities Expo, but in my opinion, failed miserably at it. So this is a big yikes, and yikes, we won't go back. Now, MTAC, on the other hand, MTAC is one of the oldest conventions in Tennessee. I think if it is the oldest, as a huge reputation as a party con. However, because of that, they have had a lot of venue hopping throughout the years. And so the current venue that they're at, they're kind of stuck there. And the con is too big for the double hotels that it's at, but they have kind of no choice but to be there. But because of that, the artist alley is in a hallway, and so the doors never lock. And it's also very cramped because they cram 20 of us in the hallway. It's a juried lottery, so you just gotta win the lottery and be good every year, which is hard. I've only done this one a handful of times over the years, even though I've been doing cons for 10 years, but it's a crapshoot to get in. But I like it because it's kind of nostalgic for me. It's an old little high school favorite, and I always have a good time, and I do get sad when I don't get to go in. Next is South Carolina Comicon in Greenville, South Carolina. I know I go here a lot because my friend lives here, so I like a free room stay. So South Carolina Comicon is a small 2-day Comic-Con. It's a very typical Comic-Con. However, one thing that this one differs from other Comic-Cons is that it is so well run. They have their shit together. They get maps. We get load-in information. They let you pay on site for next year on the end of day on Sunday, which is like amazing. I love having a constant rebook show as an artist alley vendor versus a, exhibitor vendor because the costs are so much higher. But the only bad thing is that the show floor is literally massive for the size of con that it is. So your placement really matters. And if you have a bad spot, your sales will not be great. The sales are never on top of the world here, but I'm not the angriest about it. You do kind of have to ask to be moved to new locations every year and hope for the best. I would say it's kind of like between Good Vibes and Don't Come Home Broke. But I'm going to say I didn't come home broke because it wasn't my best South Carolina Comic-Con this year. I have had better, but this year it wasn't the best. Next is the Punk Rock Flea Market in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This year it was on 4/20. So I thought, of course I want to do the Punk Rock Flea Market on 4/20. Are you nuts? I love it. It'll be fun. It was okay. This was my only outdoor event of the year, and I can't do it anymore. My car is too small. I'm I'm not strong enough to set up and break down in the same day with an outdoor event. People who do it, you are much stronger than me. I am weak. I haven't tried to do a multi-day outdoor event yet because I'm so like scared. But for me, it's gonna be we're gonna skip those because I need an SUV. All right, so the next two events took place over Memorial Day weekend, and yes, I was double booked. Did I intend to double book? No. Was I happy it happened? Yes, especially for an out-of-town show. You want your hotel money to go further. But I digress. So this was in Raleigh, North Carolina for Animazement and Carolina Fear Fest. Carolina Fear Fest is a newer horror convention, so it doesn't have a lot of years under its belt to have a super loyal following yet. So I think that's their weakest point. And then Animazement it's up there. It's been around a while, so it has a pretty loyal fan base. Well, I didn't do Carolina Fear Fest. It was okay, just from the sales wise. I think my spouse said it was really slower than usual for Carolina Fear Fest. But sales had been declining for that show for me year after year, and so unfortunately, after this year, I'm going to have to give a little pause on it. Pause on it, because it wasn't as good as I hoped it to be. The staff is really nice and they are quite organized. It's just they do need time to grow and work out the kinks for it to be profitable, since it is a 6-hour drive on top of the pretty pricey only vendor booth spots, on top of paying for my helper. It was too much. Animazement, on the other hand, I've done Animazement a few times before, and this one, it was good. I would prefer MomoCon over Animazement due to the shorter drive for MomoCon, but we just have to get off that wait list. But AZ was fun. I had a great time. I was on the aisle of the artist alley that led into the dealer's hall, so I had a lot of really good traffic. I know other artists had worse traffic, so their sales were not as good as they were hoping. But for me, I was, content. I did about what I expected. So wasn't angry, wasn't the best, had a good time. Up next is Nashville Comicon. I don't have a lot to say about Nashville Comicon other than that it continues the trend of Comic Cons are becoming autograph fests and less about nerdy community building, and they use the vendors to pay for the hall for people to get autographs and do not care if we make any money or not. It was not great, and on top of me having a flat tire due to Nashville's terrible roads, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. I did have a wonderful stamp rally, so that was the highlight of my con, but it was way too many vendors to celebrities, and everyone just wanted celebrities, and nobody was there to shop. Simple as that. Yikes. The next event was Smoky Mountain Terror in Kingsport, Tennessee. It was okay. It kind of actually technically surprised me. For a 2-day show, it was really not bad. While everyone was there for the celebrities, and he lied to us and sold us 10x10 booths. And when we got there, we got 8x8s, or some people got even less than 8x8. There was a lot of AI and bootlegs in the room, but the people were there and the people were nice and they were very happy to spend and all that stuff. It was very nice. However, next year he's making it 3 days. And honestly, it's not really worth being 3 days. It was just perfect at 2 days. Sunday was very slow, but it is what it is. He gave us a discount for next year's booths as an apology that this year's booths were too small. So I took that as a sign of maybe skip and we'll try you next year. But I didn't come home broke. I just will probably skip next year. Up next is Akai Con. That was at the end of June in Lebanon, Tennessee. I've done this one before. It used to be in Nashville, but they moved out to Lebanon, where I assume the venue is a lot cheaper. because Nashville's so expensive. But the pros, the table was cheap enough, and you get a lot of space. Like, everybody gets like a 8-foot by 8-foot spot, and that's really nice. However, my neighbor next to me, who had a corner booth, didn't show up. And by Saturday, I was like, hey, could me and the neighbor across from them, could we both take over a table each so we could, make the room not look bad, because it looks really bad. And attendees were starting to hang out behind the table there. And you don't want attendees hanging out behind the booths at Artist Alley. It's a safety risk. And I was offered to purchase the booth instead. And I said, oh, well, that was not my intention. I wasn't trying to purchase the booth because obviously it's just empty and making the room look bad. But no, I will not purchase it. And it left like a sour taste in my mouth, but I get it. But also on top of that, like, the sales are really bad for an anime convention. Like, they were just unusually so. And apparently it's because they moved the game room out of the vendor room. And so all the attendees were hanging out there. And then this is the middle of summer in the South. It is hot. And if they have to go outside from the cold game room into the hot vendor room to shop, they're not going to come, because we were in like a farm expo hall. So we didn't really have great AC. We had giant fans in the ceiling. So it was not a vibe. Not for me. I will not be back. Next, my only show in July was Tekko in Pittsburgh. Tekko was kind of like the highlight of my summer, and I had a really great time. Honestly, before I even tell you about it, it was great vibes. Great vibes. Technically my first time to Pittsburgh. I met with my friends from Philly. We had a cosplay group. I sold out of all my ribbons. It was my first really, really big ribbon con. And yeah, I had a great time. No notes. Next, in August, I had CreepyCon, which is a horror convention local to me in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, CreepyCon I have done for several years, and any ordinary year, this would have been like good vibes, personal favorite. However, this year it has fallen from grace, and it is going to become a skippy year, because this was my worst sales ever with us moving to the convention center. But with the move to the convention center, they doubled, tripled, I don't know. It was like a huge increase of the number of vendors they put in. And they didn't do as much advertising, so the attendance was pretty much flat or even less than the previous years, and it was just really not good. And when I was asking about the changes that they would do for next year to improve it, I asked, hey, the AI was really bad this year. And they told me, well, some artists use AI in their work. And so that led me to go, wow, I'm not coming back next year. So it's really sad, because I think this show's really fun to attend. They really love to entertain their attendees. I'm disappointed in the AI policy and hope they cut the number of vendors down, because people traveled there from like so much further away than I did, because all I did was wake up and roll over, and they were out so much money. It was very sad. Up next is Spooky Empire Charleston. Well, Spooky Empire is a long-running show. Charleston was their first exit out of the Florida area. It was a first-year show, so I knew it was going to be kind of risky to do going in. But I didn't keep my expectations really high. I just came in to have a good time and eat in Charleston, to be honest. Unlike Akai Con, Spooky Empire did have some empty tables next to us, and they literally begged me to take them over. And I said, of course I will. Thank you for letting me spread out for free, and so I can make the show look better and not have to deal with these people who are just scrounging up for cash and double dipping. It's very... I love the Spooky Empire staff. They're always super nice to me, and I always love going. It's good vibes. Sales wise though, this wasn't as good, obviously, as the other Spooky Empire shows, but due to the fact that this one is easier for me to drive to than Orlando, I'm gonna put it at didn't come home broke, because I Didn't come home broke. Up next is Matsuricon in Columbus, Ohio. This is normally on Labor Day weekend, even though it has been earlier in August before, but currently it's on Labor Day weekend. This is one of my personal favorite shows to attend every year, even though it is not a top earning show. Some years are up, some years are down, but I consistently have a great time going to Matsuricon. Shout out to staff who are literally amazing and like one of the most accommodating, like them and Comic-Con, like some of the best staff I've ever attended. The attendees are super, super nice. They probably could just be, Midwestern politeness, but I have a great time. I don't really get a lot of rude customers. The food is really great in Columbus. I have such a great time eating here in Columbus. I don't know. I have the most footage for this event because I really attempted to vlog this, but I don't have much to say other than I had a great time. And I love like how much space you get. It's one of my personal favorites. I love Matsuricon. I hope I get off the wait list for next year because I'm currently waitlisted and I'm so sad. Up next is Alabama Comicon. Alabama Comicon is normally like early October in Birmingham, Alabama, and I have words for Alabama Comicon. I normally have an okay time. Last year I did okay enough for a 2-day show and okay enough for me to return. This year was abysmal because we were sharing the venue with a football game, and well, if you live in the South, you can't share anything with the football game because nobody will show up but football people. It's just how it is. Sports are better than God, apparently. But because of that, traffic was abysmal. And since this is their flagship show, it really, really hurt them that there was nobody there. Unfortunately, what puts this in the yikes category is actually how they treated the vendors at the end of the weekend. So they have it in their contract that if you pack up early, you are blacklisted from their shows. For me, that's fine. I think it does make the room look bad if you pack up too early. However, I still had my table up, and I was just sending my partner to get rid of some of the extra things to put back in the car. And so he was, loading back some extra things like the extra chair, the extra, all the stuff that you have just extras of. And a staff member came up to him and said, "What's your booth number?" And he goes, "You're blacklisted." And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I don't care. It's 15 minutes until the end of the show. I wasn't actually packing up my entire booth, just wanting to get a head start on some of the extras. But, if you want to be that way, you want to be that way. And I had paid for another one of their shows later in the year in November called Preserve Halloween Fest, which they canceled. And I literally had to harass them to get my refund, even though I waited over, I think, a month after the scheduled dates and be like, "Hey, where's my money? Give it back." I personally am blacklisting all of their events because I don't know. It's just kind of rude. When we were all having a bad time at Alabama Comicon, it was the weekend after Hurricane Helene, and I was dealing with the stress of like, is my house going to be flooded because of all of this water coming downstream? I live next to one of the dams that was at critical mass during Hurricane Helene, and we were all sitting on pins and needles wondering if it was going to burst and flood the entire area. But, ban me from your con. I don't care. Up next is, speaking of amazing staff members, is Comic-Con High. Comic-Con High is the baby sister con to normal Comic-Con. Comic-Con High is in Huntsville, Alabama instead of Birmingham. And I have a great time because it's the same staff. The venue is a little bit different. The money is not as good as Comic-Con, but because staff is immaculate, I have a great time. The attendees are nice. It's just good vibes all around. Love it. Please always let me in. I have a great time. My last horror convention of the year was Scarefest in Lexington. Um, this one is normally always around mid October, and I didn't do this one last year, but I did do it in 2022 and 2021. In 2021, I had a pretty good time. In 22, I had a pretty big drop in sales, so I opted to give it a year's off and then come back for 2024. And in 2024, what the fuck happened? Like, all hail Matthew Lillard for bringing in my target audience into the room, but damn. I haven't had a big sellout like this in a long time, and after having a string of some bad cons, as you can see, it was just so nice to have like a win, because normally this show isn't a didn't come home broke. This year this year it was one of my favorite shows to do the year. I also met like a lot of new artists that I've never seen at the show before, and I was hanging out with my friend John at Glitchbat pretty much like the whole weekend. I had a great time. Crazy. I don't know how. I was actually woefully unprepared, but I had a great time. But I don't think next year is going to be as good because Matthew Lillard isn't going to be there. But I'm still going to go. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't suck. But I had a great time. Last, and certainly not least, is Yama Con. Yama Con is my hometown show. It is always in the beginning of December, and it's probably, of the ones that I've done on this, it's the one I've done the longest. I have done it since like Yama Con year 2, and we were on like year 12? Yeah, it's been kind of a long time. This is my longest running show. It's one of my most profitable only because of the fact that I am, one, local, and two, I have been going to it so long that I have a regular stream of customers that always come and see me. I have all my friends come to this one. You know, if you have a local show that you've done forever, it's the same vibes. I love Yama Con. I love that they let us rebook every year. I know everyone else hates that because there's not a lot of new people coming in, but I like steady income, so I don't hate it. I think they could improve in getting better variety of guests. They kind of get like similar guests every year, which is fine. It is very like local, small town vibes, but I love Yama Con. If you're in the area, you need to come because it's during a great time of year. In Pigeon Forge, it's kind of crazy, but there's lots to do and lots to eat, but I recommend it. Yama Con's good. Good vibes. Nice staff. And, well, I live here, so it's really nice to end the con schedule at home. So, yeah. It is a personal favorite. All right, so here is my final ranking of all 20 of the shows I did. Just because it was in personal favorite doesn't mean it was gangbusters money. I just wanted to remind everyone that it's just ones that I like to enjoy doing year after year because the vibes and the money are decent. I am, unfortunately, going to be breaking one of my rules for next year and be upgrading Carolina Fear Fest to Didn't Come Home Broke, only because I already got into Animazement for 2025, and I didn't get into MomoCon, and I don't know about Anime Boston, so I like efficient money, and so I might be double booking myself for that weekend. So Carolina Fear Fest is getting another shot. But if it's in maybe skip a year or yikes, especially if it's in yikes, I'm never doing them again. You can pay me to go to them. Fuck them. But yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And yeah, you'll get to see more convention content here soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.